So, I asked Team EDB to tell me about one of their pets' natural habitats and one thing they've done to try and recreate it in captivity. I'll start. Chances are, if you watch my content, you know who this is. This is my crested gecko Zora. Now, crested geckos, if you didn't know, are from a place called New Caledonia. And when trying to design her enclosure, I looked up New Caledonia and looked at some of the plants there. And one plant that particularly stood out to me was this guy. So, it may sound super simple, but I went looking for a plant that looks similar and found the umbrella plant. Recreating your pet's wild habitat in captivity doesn't need to be too complex. Now, Team EDB, I pass it on to you.
My chosen pet is found in Western Africa. Here you'll find climbing opportunities, access to clean and fresh water, lots of leaf litter, and of course, plenty of sunshine. The key thing in all of that is the sunshine. So to replicate the natural environment in captivity, for my royal python, I have done this.
Overhead heat in the form of a halogen, UVB, and an LED.
Simulating as much of the spectrum as possible, heat, light, and UV. Lovely stuff.
Male Hog Island bearwhales have been known to bask out in the open often. I've also been seen climbing trees to catch migrating birds. Due to this, I have added a variety of different climbing opportunities to Toast's enclosure, and I have added birds such as quail to his diet. The different textures to these branches will also help Toast shed when needed.
Hognose snakes, like most reptiles, are ectothermic, meaning they depend on external heat to regulate their body temperature.
In the wild, these guys bask in the sun to warm up and retreat to shade to cool down. Here, you can see my hognose instinctively basking after a meal to aid digestion. I've recreated this with a basking spot, giving my hognose snake options to move between warm and cooler spots.
This allows my hognose to control his body temperature. Bodily autonomy. I am helping my hognose thrive by safely recreating my hognose's natural environment.
Giant African land snails are from, you guessed it, Africa, specifically East Africa. In the wild, these guys would eat eggshells, animal bones, sand, and even slide over concrete to get the all-important calcium that they need. I like to replicate this in Rose's enclosure with cuttlefish bone. Cuttlefish bone is accessible and an easy way for Rosie to display those natural behaviours that she would in the wild.
Today I'm going to be talking about my Woma python enclosure. Woma pythons come from southwest and central Australia. They are an arid species that is commonly seen travelling miles and miles a day. They are found in shrubland and grassland areas, and they commonly use those grasses and plants to hide away whilst moving across hot and dry Australia. So in my enclosure, I have provided grasses like in their natural habitat, but also other types of arid plants so that Bicky, my Woma python, feels nice and comfortable whilst moving across his enclosure.
Here we have Pickles, my green tree python. Their natural habitat is the rainforests of Indonesia, Papua New Guinea and Australia. I've tried to recreate that by just putting a lot of greenery, loads of plants, lots of branches for her to explore, and yeah, just a lot of coverage for her. I mean, these guys are commonly kept on paper towels, but yeah, really isn't necessary. So yeah, just bioactive, greenery, branches, boom.
So these guys' natural habitat is South America in the woodlands, so like a jungle tropical biome. Actually in the wild they would be up trees and foraging and looking for food. So to encourage that for my two, I hide high value foods in foraging toys. Another way I make them forage is also by putting their food in a puzzle ball.
My African fat-tailed gecko is naturally from West Africa. They have two seasons there, a rainy warm season and a cool dry season. I use supplemental heating to replicate this within her environment. During the rainy warm season, which is April to October, I like to use two heat sources. We have a halogen and a deep heat projector. The halogen is on for 12 hours a day to make a day-night cycle, but the deep heat projector is on for 24 hours during the warm season. It's on like this to create a warmer ambient temperature at night. African fat-tailed geckos prefer the nighttime temperature to be around 22 to 25 degrees Celsius during the warm season, and then during the cool season, they're good with it around 17.